Looking at a blank EQ and listening to your source and not knowing what to do or where to start is one of the most frustrating things. So if you're brand new to music production or audio engineering, or you've been doing it for just a few years, I want to try to demystify EQ in general and show you what to look for and give you the tools to know what to listen for. Also, I just want to emphasize off the top, EQ is not a one-size-fits-all. People will tell you if you do this one thing, it's going to make your vocal sound like Ariana Grande or whatever. And that's just not true. That's just not going to help you. EQ is 100% totally dependent on how the source sounds and how it was actually recorded. What mic did you use? What was the proximity from that mic? What does your vocalist sound like in the room in general? How does it sound compared to the other instruments? So you can't just make one EQ and put it on every vocal that you'll ever record. But there are some tried and true practices and concepts that work as a starting point, whether that's in the studio or live on stage if you're running sound. That way, I want to teach you how to actually EQ what you're hearing, not just how to EQ whatever was in the tutorial video. I'm just going to assume you know the basics of EQ and you know generally what you're looking at when you pull up an EQ. I recommend breaking up your EQ into 4 distinct sonic sections and addressing them separately. Just by focusing on one frequency area at a time can really help compartmentalize and help you make better decisions. So you hear a little bit of the context of the song. Let's solo this vocal and listen to it just dry, soloed. Hop on a train with you, go to random places, chasing highs to get away and end. So not a perfect recording by any means. You can hear some big plosives. You can hear a bit of the room sound. This is a very normal vocal for a home studio. This is just kind of what I get and what I have to deal with. So this is what we're going to overcome today. So we're just talking about EQ today. So I ended up putting some compression and leaving the mixed automation on this track. I bounced it down to this other lane here. Here's the vocal with no EQ effects, just some compression. And we'll go hop on a train with you, go to random places, chasing highs to get away. So let's open up an EQ and just get started right here. So I start on the left, which is the low end, which is where all the boom and the full sound comes from your instrument or your vocal. For vocals, it depends on the proximity of the mic. If you record from back here, it's going to sound very thin. It's not going to have a ton of low end to it. And if you get a lot closer, it's going to sound a lot more full and have a lot more low end to it. That's just an example of how the EQ will change per your vocalist and your recording. In this case, we have a lot of low end boom and we want to control that. So we're going to use a low cut to do so. What I'll do is I'll just take this low cut and I'll slowly drag it up until I feel like all that boom, unnatural fullness is kind of gone. And we'll go hop on a train with you, go to random places, chasing highs to get away and... Cool, that feels natural there to me. What you'll generally find is that your low cut frequency ends up around where your first fundamental frequency is in your source. And let me kind of explain that. So let's pull this low cut back down. What we can see is down here, all this low end information, there's really nothing down here. It's just kind of nothingness. We see all these peaks here. This is where my voice actually is making sound. All this down here is kind of non-existent. It's just being picked up in the room. If you're on stage, you see the kick drum coming through down here. Or the bass guitar, all that low end frequencies down here. And so your low cut usually ends up around in there, where you're barely turning that down a little bit, controlling some of that boominess, and then also removing all of that low end mud junk down there. Focusing on the next EQ section is kind of your low mids, which is where a lot of the boxy, weird sound comes from. And if you don't know what you're listening for, I recommend boosting a frequency and then moving that band around, kind of like this. And we'll go hop on a train with you, go to random places, chasing highs. It becomes a lot more evident what is actually underneath that EQ band. Most EQs also have the option to solo or to monitor just that band, and so we can do that here as well. Hop on a train with you, go to... Also, if you want to be more specific with the frequencies that you're adjusting, you can adjust the Q, which is basically the width of the affected area of the EQ. This is a wide Q, you're affecting a lot of frequencies. A tight Q, you're affecting just like a singular frequency. So like I could turn all of these low mids down at once or turn them all up. But I really recommend making pretty wide Q, broad stroke changes here, especially in the low end. And this might be an incorrect way of thinking about it, but this is kind of the way my weird brain thinks. In the natural world, when sound is recreated, the high frequencies have these very tight pressure cycles as they emanate through the universe, and low frequencies have very wide, long, physically long pressure cycles. Let's say you want to turn down the low end, but your pressure cycle waves are huge in the real world, so you need a huge EQ thing to take care of it. It's a weird concept, just kind of go with me. But with the higher frequencies, with these much tighter pressure waves, you need much tighter of EQ control to take care of those specific frequencies. So I think of, you got low end, you got super wide, super big pressure waves, so you need wide, big EQs. For the high end, you have really tight, really articulate pressure waves, you need more so tight EQ bands to take care of those problems as well. That's not always the case. It's just a mindset I try to get into when I think about EQing lows and highs. So just like the low cut, I want to decide how much of that boxy mid-range sound I want and how little of that I want. So do I want more or do I want less? And that's where I make that decision. So let's take a listen here. Spin and we'll go hop on a train with you, go to random places, chasing highs to get away an endless sky. Sweet, so that feels good to me. And you might wonder, like, how do I know if I want more or less? I think just like I did there, boosting it, listening to what it sounds like, and then cutting it and listening to what it sounds like is a good place to start. Just like try your options and hear what it sounds like. Take as much time as you need. If you genuinely don't know if it needs to be boosted or cut, what I recommend is boosting, sweeping until you find that it sounds the absolute worst, and then just cut that. Because basically you're finding the grossest part and you're just cutting those frequencies. This next section in the high mids here is where all of the harshness comes from, but also all of the clarity. If we boost too much, spin and we'll go hop on a train, it sounds clear, but also pretty harsh. And if we cut too much, spin and we'll go hop on a train with, it's not harsh at all, but there's no intelligibility or clarity at all. So for this example, I'm just gonna boost. I'm gonna have this tight-ish Q. I'm gonna boost and find the grossest frequency, and I'm gonna cut it, and we're gonna listen to it. Spin and we'll go hop on a train with you, go to random places, chasing highs to get away an endless sky, no reservations. I feel so close, I feel so close. Northern lights, found oasis, no time. So that's what sounded bad to me. I'm gonna bypass it. Let's listen. Spin and we'll go hop on a train. I'm gonna engage it. Spin and we'll go hop on a train. That kind of cuts out the weirdness that I was hearing. Again, every single voice is going to have different harsh frequencies, different weird sounding frequencies, and it's up to you to boost that, sweep that, find it, and then make that cut. One other thing I want to reinforce is the idea of not cutting too much. One thing I see a lot is if there's too much low end, people go crazy and they'll cut all of the low end, or it's too harsh and so they cut all the harshness and clarity out. So when you make an EQ cut, maybe do a little less. And if you set it, let's say at 6 dB, try 3 and see if you like it, and maybe you won't and you have to go back lower again. But often our initial gut reaction is to go too far. And I would say the same with anything, with reverb or delay. Set the reverb where you like it, and then maybe cut it by half or by a third or something like that, and then see if you're happy. Multiply doing 20 to 40% too much on 100 tracks. That's a lot of frequency weirdness that you just created. So the next EQ section we're gonna look at is the very, very high end, which is just the air or the very high end brightness of the whole vocal. Too much of that sounds very overwhelming and it can sound harsh depending on how high your sibilance is. Can kind of get up in that range, so it can sound too harsh if you boost that, or it can sound like you're under a blanket if you cut it too much. It kind of takes all the life out of it as well. A good practice is to use a shelf to control everything above maybe 8K or 10K, just to give it a little bit of sheen, a little top end, or darken it up, make it a little more vintage sounding or whatever you want that to feel like. Go hop on a train with you, go to random places, chasing highs to get away, an endless sky, no reservations feel. So the vocal's already pretty crispy and has a lot of sheen on it already. So I'm just adding maybe a dB and a half right there, 2 dB it looks like, of top end. So let's do it before and after. Go hop on a train with you, go to random places, chasing highs to get away, an endless sky. One thing this definitely accentuates is the very brittle S's and the T's, all the sibilants. It's pretty aggressive. So you're gonna really want to use a de-esser to target those sibilant frequencies and control those. So what we can do here is watch our RTA and see when our S's come in, what frequency those are hitting at. And we'll go hop on a train with you, go to random places, chasing highs. So it's looking like around in the 7K area here. So I'm gonna put a de-esser kind of between that 5 and 10K range, just to kind of cover that 7K range with a bell and just slam those sibilant frequencies as they come through. And we'll go hop on a train with you, go to random places, chase. And we'll go hop on a train with you, go to. That feels so much more controlled and less harsh. Here's before and after. Hop on a train with you, on a train with you, go. It just really takes the edge off and makes it feel more pleasing to listen to for sure. So I guess a de-esser was kind of a bonus tip. And another bonus tip, if you want to call it that, is contextual EQ. So what I'm going to do is open up the rest of the track and turn all the effects back on here. And I'm going to load another EQ after our initial EQ and our de-esser. And we're just going to listen back to this track here for a second. Up on a train with you, go to random places, chasing highs to get away, an endless sky. So in context of the track, there's a few cuts that I think I want to make. Up on a train with you, go to random places, chasing highs to get away, an endless sky, no reservations, feel so close, feel so close. Northern lights, found oasis, no timeline, no destination. Oh! Something like that feels a little more natural to me. I think setting up your EQ in context of the other sources is so important. One thing I see a lot of people do is solo a snare and EQ it for 15 minutes, and then it sounds like garbage in context of the song, which if they would have maybe soloed it so they can hear what's happening frequency-wise in that instrument, and then open it up and start EQing it in context of the kick drum and the cymbals and the vocals and all the other things, and your whole sonic balance will really come together when you start to make those EQ changes in context of everything else. Bonus tip number 3 would be to make subtractive EQ cuts. There's like a 2.5 hour conversation to be had about noise floor in the studio and live, and feedback problems live, and all that stuff on why it's not a great idea to boost. But in general, make subtractive cuts instead of additive boosts on your EQ bands. Boom, box, harsh, air. And I promise if you think about that when you start to EQ every time, I promise that you'll start to learn what you like and what you don't over time, and be able to more quickly identify problem frequencies and take care of them. I recently popped into some old Logic sessions and was just baffled at how much destructive EQ I did. So just take it easy. Start with 4 bands. Limit yourself to 4 bands. Maybe add a 5th with a tight cue if you need to take care of something very specific. But just chill out, take it easy, make some good music, and EQ responsibly. Also, if you use Logic Pro and are looking for some tips, check out this video up here. We'll talk soon. Peace.